Hello everybody, I'm Danger Jen Vex, and today I'm going to talk to you about this comment. Gongasi says, so in what part of Britain is South Africa again? Thank you, Gongasi, for bringing this up again, as you so love to do. Obviously, the comment is meant here in a humorous tone, but I decided to talk about it in this vlog because, oddly enough, it's a topic that comes up very frequently when I join new online communities. For some reason, a lot of people are convinced that I'm British because of the way that I speak. And they base this assumption not on the fact that I sound British, because I do kind of sound British, but on the fact that I don't sound the way they think South Africans would sound. I've had people have fully fledged arguments with me online because they don't believe that I'm South African. They absolutely don't believe that South Africans sound this way. So basically, what I'm going to be addressing is what I like to call the long con. And I call it the long con because for years now, South Africans have managed to convince the rest of the world that we can't speak properly, that we don't know how to grammar, and that our accent make us sound like idiots. So I remember the first time that I actually heard someone else use a South African accent while speaking English, at least what the rest of the world thought the South African accent sounded like. And that was while I was watching one of my favorite buddy cop films, Lethal Weapon. Now, I don't know if any of you've watched Lethal Weapon, but in the second one, the heroes, our heroes, Mel Gibson and his partner, are chasing down these, they're in a car chase. And in the middle of the chase, these weird voices start coming over the car radios. And the guys are guessing what this language could be, Japanese or German. And it's revealed later in the film that it's South African. And I was so shocked that I actually had to go back and listen to it again to hear if they were actually speaking South African. Now, first things first. In that the movie is brilliant. Don't get me wrong. But I struggled to recognize the Afrikaans that they were speaking in the film because it sounded like Americans or people from other countries trying to imitate bad South African Afrikaans. And it got worse when we got to the parts where the people were actually speaking English, because at that point it just sounded like Americans pretending to be South Africans, pretending to have really, really horrible English accents. And I know in a way that's what it is. I mean, that's acting. But I don't know, it just sounded so wrong. And I've never been able to understand why the rest of the world has that kind of impression of South Africa or South African accent. Worse still is that South Africans have actually caught on to the fact that the rest of the world have this idea of what we sound like. Anyway, so the world has this idea of how we should sound. And our local filmmakers and actors and actresses have, for some unfathomable reason, decided to play right along. So when you see South African films or South African actors in films portraying South Africans, they all speak with this horrible accent because that's what the world thinks we sound like. And they would be wrong about 99 or 98% of the population. I won't lie to you. There are some people who actually do sound the way the world thinks we do. But we try not to. It's not really that bad. I mean, I remember being in high school and hearing my principal, my high school principal, talk with a crappy accent like that. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, how was it possible that this person couldn't speak English properly? Surrounded by people who could speak it flawlessly, by the way. Anyway, there were a lot of things that influenced me in that regard. One of them was an uncle. At least I think he was an uncle. He was a family member from Britain. And whenever he would come to visit, he would give me English words that I'd have to memorize and their meanings that I'd have to learn. And then when he'd come for another visit, I'd have to give him these words and explain their meanings to him, and then he would give me new words. And we started out with easy things, like umbrella and similar things. But I know that I started getting annoyed with the easy words. So he started giving me things like incredulous and many, many different words. The second thing that influenced me when I wanted to start learning English, or while I was learning English, was The Boy Next Door. Now, I was very, very young still, but so there wasn't any romantic interest. It was just there was a boy next door. He lived next to my grandmother. So whenever I visited my grandmother and I wanted to have a friend to play with, there would be this boy next door. But he was English and I was Afrikaans, so naturally if I wanted to play with him, I needed to learn how to speak his language so that we could communicate. And that was another reason why I learned English. So I started very young. I had British people actually influencing me as I learned. But somehow I still ended up sounding American by my early 20s. In fact, I met someone, again, not romantically, just very good friends. And he always told me that I sounded horribly American. And he hated it. In the end, I went back and I tried to correct my accent again. And I went back to what you're hearing now, which is a more British South African accent. But just to prove that we South Africans have been fooling you for many, many years, I can prove to you that I can also sound that way. So I can also speak with crap grammar because I also live in South Africa. And because I live in South Africa and I am surrounded by these people all the time, and I are struggling many, many times to do with proper grammar, but it's kind of like how my people speak. And this is kind of like how the world And this is kind of like how the world expects us to talk, but they would be very, very wrong because I can say because instead of because, and I can pronounce the TH sound as th instead of saying d. And that is probably enough to give me nightmares. I really, really hate butchering a language like that. But it's just so you know that we can speak proper English, and we kind of have to. In case you didn't know, South Africa has 11 official languages. So it would be English and Afrikaans, and then we also have Zulu, Xhosa, Northern Sotho, Tswana, Sotho, Tsonga, Swazi, Venda, and Ndebele. And we also have our national flag has so many colors that it might as well be the gay pride flag of the world. And our national anthem is in 5 different languages. It's in Xhosa, Zulu, Tswana, Afrikaans, and English. So, you know, just to help you understand that South Africans don't just speak Afrikaans, and we don't just speak English. And some of us sound like we have American accents, some sounds like we have Australian accents, some sound like we have British accents, and some of us pander to the rest of the world and pretend we have moron accents. But I just wanted to address this, just to prove that I am very much South African, but we sound very different, all of us. From those who speak Zulu and Xhosa to those who speak Venda and Afrikaans, and we really are a rainbow nation. And for all our faults, our differences are one of the many things that really make us beautiful as a country. And now I'm getting all sentimental. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have for you for this episode. But yeah, I mean, if you guys have any other thoughts about, you know, the different languages, I can't speak a lot of the native, well, I can't speak any of the native languages to save my life. But, you know, go take a look at some of the different languages, and remember, you know, keep in mind the next time that you're talking to a South African and they sound really, really bad, just keep in mind that they are probably conning the crap out of you. Anyway, that's all the time I have for this video. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like or a comment if you have an idea for a different topic for me to talk about. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Twiddle, 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 twiddle.